I've always loved October. The crunch of leaves underfoot, the smell of cinnamon drifting from kitchens, and the distant echo of children laughing as they dart around in oversized costumes. Halloween, for me, isn't just a holiday, it's a feeling. A magical permission slip to be silly, spooky, and creative all at once. So you can imagine how I felt when I stepped outside on October 1st and saw a woman in a beige windbreaker ripping down my paper bats and pulling the cobwebs from my bushes like they were poison ivy. She was standing in my front yard like she owned it, elbow deep in my orange tinsel, muttering to herself. And that's when I met Laura. Not met as in polite introductions and pleasantries. No. This was a declaration of war, sealed with the snap of a plastic skeleton garland. "Excuse me?" I asked, frozen in place on my porch with a mug of coffee halfway to my lips. She turned slowly. Her face was sharp and pale, like a librarian in a horror movie who secretly feeds on overdue books. Her hair was pulled so tight into a bun it looked like it hurt. And her expression? Pure disapproval, the kind usually reserved for someone letting their toddler eat candy before breakfast. "I'm Laura," she said without a smile, like I should know what that meant. "Head of the HOA. Of course she was. "Did you get a permit for these?" she snapped, gesturing at my modest but festive setup. Some spiderwebs, a skeleton dog, a few paper pumpkins taped to the mailbox. "A permit, for Halloween decorations?" She sniffed, like I'd just suggested we sacrifice a goat in the driveway. "It's in violation of Section 4.3b of the HOA Seasonal Decor Guidelines," she said, producing a laminated booklet that she apparently carried on her like a pistol. "No unsanctioned decorations before October 15th. I blinked. "I've lived here 6 years. No one's ever." "Well, there's a new sheriff in town." She actually said that. Word for word. She plucked my last little ghost from the porch light, handed it to me like it was contraband, and walked away without another word. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not just because Laura had robbed my porch of its seasonal charm, but because she'd made it so personal. Like Halloween was some moral failing I needed to repent for. And I wasn't alone. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I found 3 texts from my neighbor Ashley. "Did she rip down your bats too? I saw her unplug the Simmons inflatable witch. HOA meeting tomorrow. We're going. Wear orange." Ashley lived 2 doors down with her husband Marcus and their one-eyed cat named Pickles. She was the unofficial community group chat moderator, gossip collector, and defense attorney for all things fun. If Laura was the queen of order, Ashley was the queen of resistance. By noon, word had spread like pumpkin spice wildfire. Decorations had been pulled down. From 6 houses, all by Laura herself. Even Mr. Garcia's porch skeletons, which had been up every October since 2005, were gone. She didn't even ask, Mr. Garcia complained over the fence. Just climbed up with her little stool and yanked him. The skeletons were in therapy after that. We all laughed, but underneath was a quiet panic. Who was this woman? And how did she get this much power? Turns out, she moved in 3 months ago when the previous HOA president, sweet old Mrs. Donaldson, stepped down for health reasons. Laura ran unopposed. Probably because nobody else wanted to attend monthly meetings in folding chairs to discuss lawn heights. She saw a gap in power, and seized it like a hawk swooping down on a field mouse. That week, decorations stayed down. It was like Halloween had been ghosted by the whole neighborhood. But on October 8th, Ashley had a little idea. Just a whisper of rebellion. I'm putting out one pumpkin, she texted. Just one. Let's see what she does. I peeked out my window at dusk and there it was. A single pumpkin. No face. Just vibes. The next morning, it was gone. In its place? A note stuck to the stoop with tape. Premature seasonal display. Consider this a warning. Laura. Ashley posted the note to the group chat and wrote, "Okay. Gloves are off." That's when Operation Booback began. It started small, sticky notes shaped like ghosts left on driveways. Glittery cobweb. Bookmarks mysteriously appearing in mailboxes. Someone even left a mini cauldron full of candy on Laura's doorstep with a note that said, "Have a sweet Halloween, my queen." But the real turning point came when 8-year-old Lucas Jenkins cried at the HOA meeting. Laura had unplugged the animatronic zombie in his yard while he was watching from the window. That zombie danced to the Monster Mash. It was the highlight of Lucas's year. He stood up, clinging to his dad's hand, and whispered into the mic, "Halloween makes me brave." I swear the room went silent. Even the guy who only came for free cookies looked like he wanted to punch a ghost. Laura? She just crossed her arms and said, "We don't govern by emotion. We govern by order." That's when I realized, this wasn't just about Halloween. This was about power. And Laura was using October to test how far she could push us. But she underestimated one thing: Halloween always comes back. After the HOA meeting, there was a new kind of tension in the air, sharp, silent, and waiting to snap like a candy apple stick. Laura, now emboldened by her perceived authority, doubled down. Her face seemed permanently etched into a scowl. She began patrolling the neighborhood like a security guard at a haunted museum, clipboard in hand, scribbling notes furiously as she examined porches, lawns, and even mailboxes. Yes, mailboxes. On October 10th, Ashley's husband Marcus got a violation notice for an inappropriate mail slot decal. It was a cartoon bat. Smiling. She was no longer just removing decorations, she was issuing formal HOA citations. And with each one, the neighborhood grew more agitated. Citations popped up like weeds. Jack-o'-lantern too expressive. Cobwebs above front door create spooky hazard. Yard display obstructs aesthetic cohesion. Aesthetic cohesion? What were we, a gated community or the Vatican? Mrs. Bradford, the widow across the street who always put up a modest pumpkin on her stoop, received a warning for having an unapproved seasonal scent diffuser near her doorway. It was cinnamon. Cinnamon, for crying out loud. She sniffed it, Mrs. Bradford whispered to me. She got that close to my door and sniffed. The whole thing would have been laughable if it wasn't so obsessive. Meanwhile, I tried to stay calm. I kept my decorations boxed for now, but I attended every HOA meeting, every community email thread, and every whispering conversation over fences. I listened. I observed. Because something told me Laura wasn't just about rules, she was about control. And people like that always go too far. Ashley, though, was more of a burn the ship kind of gal. She wants war, she hissed one night, sipping wine from a Halloween-themed cup. She picked the wrong holiday. That night, I helped her tape a glow-in-the-dark skeleton to her second-story window, just out of reach. The next morning, it was gone. Ladder marks in her flower bed proved Laura had come prepared. She climbed into my yard. Ashley shrieked, holding up her phone with the security cam footage. I'm calling the cops. But calling the police didn't go quite as planned. The responding officer, Officer Daniels, who lived 2 streets over and usually smiled at neighborhood kids, showed up, watched the footage, and sighed. She technically didn't break in, he said. HOA rules give her yard access for compliance. Checks. It's a gray area. A gray area? She scaled my fence like a Halloween-themed cat burglar. Officer Daniels looked exhausted. Look. I'm off-duty Halloween night. I'm bringing my kids to this neighborhood. Just, don't let this get out of hand. But it already had. By October 12, Laura issued a community-wide Halloween ban via official HOA email. The subject line? Important notice, Halloween decorations prohibited this year. The email cited obscure bylaws, noise concerns, pagan overtones, and an unprecedented number of complaints, which nobody actually made. It ended with a chilling line. Any attempt to violate this will result in formal fines and, if necessary, legal action. The neighborhood chat exploded. Parents were outraged. Kids were heartbroken. And everyone was suddenly talking about Laura. Even the mailman had something to say. She asked me to inspect packages, he muttered one morning. Wanted me to report any suspicious-looking costumes. I said I deliver Amazon boxes, not dreams. Despite the tension, a few brave souls resisted quietly. The Simons twins hung paper bats from their upstairs window blinds, visible only at night. When the lights were on, old Mr. Garcia got creative with his lawn by arranging pumpkins into a smiley face made of mulch. I even saw someone park their car with a fake zombie hand hanging out the trunk. Laura left a note on the windshield that simply read, tasteless. The final straw came on October 13th. That's when Laura called animal control on the Jensen family because their black cat, Salem, resembled an occult symbol and might frighten children. The Jensens were furious. Salem, a 14-year-old with arthritis, barely moved from the porch swing. Animal control came, took one look at Salem napping in a sunbeam, and said, "Ma'am, this cat is more likely to start a knitting club than a demonic ritual." Still, the damage was done. That call crossed a line. That night, we gathered in secret, at my place. A dozen neighbors, all of us huddled together under dim porch lights and whispered frustration. Ashley, Marcus, Mr. Garcia, the Jensens, Mrs. Bradford, even a few who had never spoken up before. We need to do something, I said calmly, looking around. Not just for the kids, but for the whole street. She thinks she can erase joy. But Halloween was here long before her. Ashley raised her wine cup in silent agreement. To spooky justice. We started planning then and there, quietly, smartly. No social media. No group chat. Just a good old-fashioned, analog rebellion. We called it, the Haunt Back. The plan was simple. Halloween night. 6 p.m. sharp. Every house on the block, decorated. Every porch, lit. Every costume, on full display. Trick-or-treating from door to door. A block party so grand, it couldn't be fined or stopped. Because, legally, the HOA would need majority approval to shut down an entire street event. And guess who hadn't read that clause properly? Laura. We knew we were running out of time. Laura was cracking down hard, sending out daily reminder emails and even threatening to install surveillance measures. The turning point came October 14th. Ashley got an official letter threatening legal action if she didn't remove suspicious lighting from her back patio. The suspicious lighting was a single orange bulb. That same day, Mr. Garcia's newspaper mysteriously stopped arriving. And someone trimmed the Bradford's hedge into the shape of a thumbs down. It wasn't just control anymore. Laura was trying to intimidate us. But the thing about Halloween? It thrives on fear. And Laura had just handed us all the motivation we needed. There's something funny about people who build their power on fear, they don't notice when the fear starts turning into fire. By October 20th, our little rebellion wasn't so little anymore. It had grown quietly, like vines, creeping up the sides of a house. Neighbor by neighbor, family by family, we were lighting candles of resistance, figuratively and, soon, literally. Ashley dubbed it the Great Pumpkin Uprising. I preferred the humpback. Either way, we were unified. We agreed, no public signs. No digital chatter. We couldn't give Laura anything to trace. Everything would be analog, flyers in mailboxes, notes slipped under doormats, whispered. Porch visits after dark. The plan? A full-scale Halloween block party. Decorations. Costumes. Candy stations. Music. Fog machines. A pop-up haunted house in Mr. Garcia's garage. A pie-eating contest hosted by the Bradford grandkids. Even Officer Daniels promised to swing by off-duty with his 2 daughters in unicorn onesies. We weren't just bringing Halloween back. We were taking it back with a vengeance, and legally. See, while Laura had everyone terrified of HOA violations, she'd forgotten one important detail. The HOA charter stated that any major community restriction, including holiday bans, must be voted on by a 2/3 majority of registered homeowners. Not one person remembered voting on Laura's so-called Halloween ban. Because we didn't. She'd just declared it. Ashley and I went digging deep. Turns out, Laura had only submitted one formal proposal since taking over the HOA, some nonsense about seasonal foliage uniformity. It didn't even pass. The Halloween ban? Never submitted. Never voted on. Never legal. Armed with copies of the HOA charter and the unsigned proposal log, I brought the evidence to Mr. Patel, the quiet, bespectacled HOA treasurer who always nodded politely but rarely spoke. He reviewed it silently, then said, "So, she's bluffing." "Yep. Every fine she's threatened. Invalid." He looked up from the documents with a slow smile. "Then I think we should make a motion." The next HOA meeting, on October 22nd, was standing room only. People brought lawn chairs and Halloween cookies. Kids sat cross-legged with pumpkin stickers on their faces. Even Officer Daniels showed up in uniform, just in case things got spicy. Laura stood at the front like a general surveying her troops. Clipboard. Perfect bun. Neutral-colored pantsuit that screamed, "I hate candy corn." "Let's begin," she said sharply, tapping the mic. "We'll start with disciplinary measures for unauthorized decor spotted on." "Actually," Mr. Patel interrupted gently, "we'd like to make a motion to review the legality of the so-called Halloween restrictions." A ripple went through the room. Laura froze. "Excuse me?" Mr. Patel adjusted his glasses. "The HOA charter requires a vote to implement restrictions like this. No vote occurred. Therefore, your ban is invalid. And any fines or citations issued based on it are null." Laura's face did something fascinating, it twitched. Then froze again. Like her programming glitched. "This isn't up for debate," she barked. "I am the elected interim," Mr. Patel corrected. "Until the next vote. Which, by the way, is happening November 3rd. And several residents have already nominated new candidates. I couldn't help it, I glanced at Ashley, who was struggling not to smirk. Even Pickles the cat, perched in her tote bag, seemed smug. Laura's voice cracked. You're all letting chaos take over. But it was too late. The crowd wasn't afraid anymore. They were chuckling, murmuring, whispering plans about fog machines and candy tables. We're not letting chaos in, Ashley said brightly. We're just letting Halloween in. That night, Laura did something desperate. She went door to door, personally trying to convince people not to participate in the Halloween event. She warned of lawsuits, fines, spiritual corruption, and, bizarrely, tooth decay. One neighbor said Laura stood in their driveway for 10 straight minutes, reading aloud a list of reasons Halloween was banned in ancient Mesopotamia. Another said she threatened to report their Jack Skellington doormat as a terroristic image. People stopped answering the door. So Laura escalated again. On October 28, she called code enforcement. They showed up in a white city truck, looked around at the ghost decals and string lights, then left 5 minutes later with a box of cupcakes Mrs. Bradford handed them. Everything looks festive and harmless, the officer said. Call us when there's an actual emergency. That night, Laura emailed the entire HOA with a subject line that read, "This community is in moral decline." The body of the email included quotes from anti-Halloween think pieces, a link to a 6-hour sermon, and several blurry photos of children in witch costumes. She signed it off with, "Pray for this neighborhood." But we weren't praying. We were planning. October 30th came, and decorations exploded like a Halloween fireworks show. Ashley and Marcus turned their garage into a haunted hospital, complete with creepy sound effects and blinking red lights. Mr. Garcia finally resurrected his skeleton army, this time, dressed in matching mariachi outfits. Mrs. Bradford had a pumpkin tea party for the toddlers. Even the Jenkins family projected old black and white horror films onto their garage door, with popcorn buckets for all. As for me, I went full tilt. My front yard had tombstones, foam, "Don't worry," purple fog, a light-up ghost that sang Thriller, and a massive web strung between the trees with a spider the size of a toddler. My favorite addition? A scarecrow that looked suspiciously like Laura, tight bun, beige outfit, and a laminated HOA violation slip stuck to her chest. Neighbors howled with laughter. And the kids? They thrived. Laughter echoed down the block. Trick-or-treat bags bulged. Music played. Costumes glowed in the dark. It was everything Halloween should be: fun, spooky, and completely free. And Laura? She snapped. At exactly 7:12 p.m. on Halloween night, she marched out onto the street with a bullhorn. "Attention," she screeched, voice amplified and sharp. "This is not an authorized event. You are all in violation of HOA policy and will be cited accordingly." The music stopped. Candy froze midair. A fog machine sputtered. She stood in the middle of the road like a traffic cone with a grudge. "Return to your homes immediately," she yelled. "Take down your lights. Unplug your animatronics." Someone, bless them, threw a mini Snickers at her feet. Laura looked stunned. Then furious. "You think this is funny? You think?" A shrill meow interrupted her. Pickles the cat, wearing a tiny devil cape, leapt from Ashley's lawn chair and sprinted toward Laura. Laura stumbled backward, straight into the fog machine. She slipped, landed squarely in a pile of candy corn, and let out a yelp so dramatic I thought she might melt into the street like a rejected wicked witch. People gasped. Then laughed. Then clapped. Officer Daniels stepped forward from the crowd, not in uniform, but in a cowboy costume, with his 2 giggling daughters at his side. "Ma'am," he said gently, helping her up. "This is a peaceful gathering. Nobody's breaking any laws. And I've reviewed the HOA bylaws myself, your ban holds no authority." Laura looked around. No one was on her side. Even Mr. Patel was handing out caramel apples. Defeated, coated in fog residue and candy dust, she turned on her heel and marched back to her house, Bullhorn dragging behind her like a broken tail. That was the last we saw of her that night. The morning after Halloween felt different. Not just because of the candy hangovers or fog machine residue still lingering in the air. No. It was something deeper. Lighter. Like the whole street had exhaled for the first time in weeks. Kids rode bikes in costumes they refused to take off. Parents waved a little longer than usual from driveways. There was a collective understanding between us now, like war buddies. Only our battlefield was strewn with pumpkin seeds and plastic skulls. But Laura's house? Dark. Silent. Shutters drawn. No movement from behind her windows. No perfectly aligned potted plants on the porch. Just a single crumpled HOA violation notice, her own, stuffed into her mailbox by some poetic neighbor, flapping in the breeze. We all knew something had shifted. But we didn't know just how much, yet. 2 days later, the official email came. Subject: Upcoming HOA leadership election plus violation review. Written not by Laura, but by Mr. Patel. He had taken over as acting HOA president until a proper vote could be held. The email was short, direct, and, unlike Laura's usual messages, laced with something unfamiliar. Kindness. Dear residents. As of November 1st, Laura Simmons has voluntarily stepped down from her role as HOA chair due to community feedback and procedural review. All outstanding fines issued during her tenure will be voided. We invite all interested homeowners to attend the election meeting on November 3rd to help restore joy and balance to our neighborhood. Restore joy. That line alone made people tear up. I'm not exaggerating. Mrs. Bradford printed it out and framed it over her fireplace. The day of the election felt less like a formal meeting and more like a neighborhood reunion. People brought pies, coffee. Even the Jenkins boy wore a suit jacket and shook hands like a tiny mayor. Ashley ran for HOA president. She won in a landslide. Her campaign slogan? Pumpkins, peace, and pickles. Pickles the cat became the unofficial mascot. Ashley even had little HOA-themed treat bags made for the kids, filled with candy and orange crayons. One neighbor said it was the first time they'd looked forward to an HOA meeting. As for Laura, she didn't attend the election. In fact, after Halloween night, she was never quite the same. The story circulated that she was seen the morning after, sitting on her porch in a beige robe, staring blankly at a single pumpkin that had mysteriously reappeared on her lawn. No one claimed responsibility for it. But it had a tiny sign on top that read, "Lighten up, it's just a squash." For a while, she stayed quiet. No more violations. No more patrols. Occasionally, she'd peek from her blinds at the sound of laughter, but the scowl was softer now. Less menacing. More confused. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Weeks later, as Thanksgiving approached, I spotted her at the grocery store. She was wearing a gray sweater. No clipboard. No bun. She looked smaller. We crossed paths near the pumpkin pies. She glanced at me. I nodded politely. She hesitated, then muttered, "Your scarecrow was tacky." I smiled. "He had your posture." It felt right. Laura didn't smile, but she didn't argue. She just pushed her cart past the pies and disappeared down the canned vegetables aisle. That was the last personal exchange we had. The street moved on. Halloween became a symbol. Not just of candy and costumes, but of unity, resilience, and the power of a shared laugh in the face of ridiculous authority. Mr. Garcia started hosting monthly skeleton salsa nights in his garage. The Bradford grandkids organized a kids' book swap on Saturdays. Even Officer Daniels helped set up a neighborhood watch, but make it fun group where kids earned badges for kindness. And every October 31st, our street went all out. It became tradition. Not because we needed revenge, but because we'd learned something. Joy is louder than fear. And when a community stands together, no clipboard, no bullhorn, no beige-clad tyrant can stop it. I think about that sometimes, as I sip coffee on my porch in the crisp autumn air. I look at the paper bats dancing in the wind. The lights flickering across the street. Pickles. The cat, now famous, lounging on a pumpkin pillow someone made just for him. And I remember how close we came to losing it all. All because someone tried to cancel Halloween. But here's the thing about Halloween. It's the one night where pretending is encouraged, fears are made funny, and kids knock on strangers' doors expecting joy. You can't cancel that. You can only delay it. And if you try too hard to erase it, well, don't be surprised when your scarecrow twin shows up on someone's lawn. Oh, and one more thing? Ashley's already drafting new HOA guidelines. The first rule? Any attempt to ban Halloween will be met with a pie to the face. And a public dramatic reading of Pose the Raven, by Mr. Garcia, in full costume. And yes, Laura still lives here. And no, she hasn't tried anything since. But the funny thing is, she did put out one tiny pumpkin last year. No face. No lights. Just a simple, quiet squash on her windowsill. Maybe, just maybe, she was listening after all. And that, my friends, is how Laura tried to cancel Halloween, but the entire neighborhood fought back. And won. But then again, Halloween was just the beginning. Wait until you hear what happened when she tried to regulate Christmas lights. But that's a story for another day.